TV programs and the advertisements pray that you get into alpha. And usually that first commercial that comes on back during the TV days is loud, more loud than your volume of your show, because it's going boom right into your subconscious. And they're praying that you were in that alpha state. And whoever gets that first commercial probably paying a lot more, because now you want that cheeseburger and you have no idea why. And then I went to India, Nepal, Tibet. I was studying more meditative stuff, tantric stuff, things like that. And so sometimes it's all about following your heart. But if your heart's not healed, you have different pieces. So this part of your heart might want to go left. That part of your heart might want to go right. First thing to do is heal your heart. So explore and figure out what don't you have to be an independent, fully functioning adult. Because when you hit 29, that's your Saturn return. And I call it universal bitch slap. If you don't have your stuff together, if you're not on your path at that point, you're going to get hit by the universe. It's going to try to push you in the direction you're supposed to be going into. And that's when I had my car accident. You know, when I'm holding those points near your shoulders and under your head, that's the beginning of the Sandlin technique. Long story short, I got injured playing soccer in high school. And by the time I was 17, I was told I was never walking again. It's not always like something objectively traumatic. Say, oh yeah, I got beat up, bullied, you know, my uncle raped me, whatever. But I'm able to hold that space and get them to the other side. Tui Na?
Tui Na.
Tui Na.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Tui Na is the grandmother of all massage. And it's includes manipulation, acupressure, different massage techniques. And QiGong, Qi means energy, Gong means to cultivate. So any kind of exercise that cultivates your energy can be a QiGong. So it can be anything as simple as walking. Like if you're walking and you inhaled a certain number of steps, exhaled a certain number of steps, you're turning walking into QiGong because you're coordinating breath with movement. Inhale, lift your arms, exhale, lower them. That's a QiGong. Okay. Standing in one position, holding that position, meditative position, that's QiGong. So there's a lot of different kinds of QiGong. Some is for martial arts purposes, some is for spiritual development, but all of it's for health.
Okay. And Qi is Chinese, and
yeah.
But it's related to, like we call it in the West, ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is our energy currency. And then in India, they call it prana.
Yep.
In China, they call it Qi.
Yep. In ancient Greek, they called it pneuma. Pneuma, which like pneumo, like for the lungs.
Okay.
The same. So Tai Chi is actually not Qi like energy. It's pronounced with a J in Mandarin, Tai Chi. Ji means it. Tai Chi means supreme, ultimate, and it's the philosophy of yin and yang. So the duality that we live in, or one of my teachers called it conventional reality, as opposed to the oneness that underlies everything. So there was a martial art named after Tai Chi called Tai Chi Chuan. Chuan means fist or boxing or fighting system. And most martial arts in China end with that word. So it could be Shaolin, which is the Buddhist temple, Shaolin Chuan, martial arts from the Shaolin temple. And then some end with the word claw, some end with the word palm, depending on the style. So what happened was, Tai Chi is, you've seen those slow motion movements? All of those are fighting movements. They're just practiced slowly. And then that helps you connect to your whole body, helps you relax your whole body, helps. So when you want to move fast, you can move faster than someone who only trains hard because you don't have the muscle tension slowing you down. And then you get to feel someone else's energy, and you learn about how to yield when someone's coming at you. Anyway, it's a whole system of fighting. But what happened is they found out it had a lot of health benefits. So they started to water it down, make it easier for people to do so they could get some of the health benefits. And the martial art part kind of withered away a little bit.
And how long have you been teaching Tai Chi?
It's been 40 years as of last September.
Where in New York City do you teach? Well,
I started upstate, but now I teach at St. Mark's Yoga, at St. Mark's Place in the Village. On Sundays. I have an in-person class, and then I do a QiGong on Zoom on Tuesday nights, and that goes with the recording. So some people can't make it Tuesday night, they'll get the recording next day.
And what does that entail, the QiGong?
So it depends on this day and the season. So I do a 4-week, every 4 weeks I have a different theme based on the month, based on the season. So QiGong are individual exercises similar to yoga, where you have individual postures or asanas, but you're using movement along with the breath control, and each one is specific. So there's a QiGong for your lungs, a QiGong for your low back, QiGong for your vision, for your liver, for your blood pressure, for your circulation, for you name it, kidneys, bladder, etc. So depending on who's there at the Zoom, most of them are my patients as well. So I kind of know, oh, that one has a shoulder problem. We got to make sure we do a shoulder one. That one's got low back issues. That one's going through menopause. So I'll make sure we do QiGong, that covers all of them, plus whatever the season is. Like right now we're in spring. This is a Yang Wood Dragon year. So that has certain implications in terms of energy going with the cycles. So I pick QiGong exercise that go with the cycles of nature. So every season will be a little bit different. And I can mix and match because I've learned many different sets of QiGong.
I would need the lower back one.
Yeah.
I'll have to come see you at St. Mark's.
After here. Yeah, we do that one at St. Mark's. I do that one every day.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And how much different is it than Kundalini?
So I've also practiced Kundalini yoga. So we do in QiGong have a similar breath as the fire breath. It's called Wuji breathing. But usually when we do that, we're not holding a yogic posture. We're just maybe laying down with the knees bent. So most of the yoga postures are done sitting or laying down. Most of the QiGong I teach is done standing and slight moving, maybe side to side or forward and back. There are QiGong that you can do sitting down and laying down, but I usually don't teach much of those because people need to move more. They're already sitting for a long time at their computers or at their work. So over the years, they've told me they prefer doing the movement QiGong. So maybe more like a vinyasa type, going from one thing to another type thing.
So let's get to it. What inspired you to dedicate your life to energy healing?
Yeah, so I was going to be a nuclear physicist. That was my original plan. As a kid, I was interested in energy, but more from literally nuclear. I took classes at
I read your book.
Hunter College when I was a kid, and my uncle was the vice president of operations of Con Ed, so I had a lot of inside tours of the nuclear power plant, Indian Point. I went to Princeton. I looked at their nuclear fusion reactor. But I was also athletic, and I was also born with loose ligaments and problems with my joints. My knees used to pop out and had issues with braces, my teeth. Long story short, I got injured playing soccer in high school, and that one injury then dominoed from my ankle to the knee to the other knee, and I kept tearing parts of my body. And by the time I was 17, I was told I was never walking again without the knee braces, the ankle brace, the crutches. And I was like, wait a minute, just a year ago, I was in the best shape of my life, like running 5 to 10 miles a day, weightlifting, every sport you can imagine, skateboarding, etc. So that didn't sit well with me. And the Western doctors, they didn't even want to try surgery because they basically said it was a 50-50 chance that I might even be worse after the surgery. So that's what started to inspire me to understand a little bit more about healing and energy, because at that point I realized that the mind and body were connected. And I started to work with athletes as an assistant athletic trainer, and seeing that, they'd be hurt. We'd help them with icing and taping and electric stim and all that exercise, but nobody was dealing with the emotional part, their anger, their depression. So I was starting counseling. I became a psych major. I worked in a psychiatric hospital. So I was starting to kind of connect those dots. And also one thing that people don't always understand is the environment. I was feeling in my joints like when it was going to rain, like really bad at that time. But I didn't know enough yet to know that even diet can affect that. Your sleep patterns can affect that. Your constitution affects that. So I would predict rain, better than the weathermen. My friends would call me on a summer day. It's a good day to go to the beach. And I say, hold on. Nope, storm's coming. I said, but they said sunny. I was like, yep, storm's coming. Storm would come. So anyway, that's how I got into it. And then I was studying shiatsu. I met a Zen master. I met a Tai Chi master, and they kind of helped me get on that path.
And this was like high school, college?
College.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And where'd you grow up?
Here in New York.
Oh, wow. Where?
I was born in Astoria.
Wow.
I went to grammar school on the east side, 74th Street. I studied jiu-jitsu Upper West Side on 72nd Street.
Okay, cool.
And I also studied down here in Chinatown, Tribeca.
Wow, impressive. You also study herbal medicine, right?
Yeah, so originally I was psych major and I wanted to work with athletes. And then I ended up working in St. Vincent's Hospital with spinal cord injured, head trauma, stroke, like serious, you're okay one day and now your whole life has changed. And then I had worked in psychiatry before, then I went back to working in psychiatry in the locked wards where people were either suicidal or homicidal or substance abuse, things like that. And then eventually I also got into hypnosis and hypnotherapy, and I was really enjoying being able to help people on those deeper levels of their past traumas. But I still felt something was not holistic enough. And that's when I went back to school. It was actually a car accident in Nepal that made me go back to school to become an acupuncturist, because I couldn't walk for 7 years. And then the acupuncture, I went to China and I got hurt over there, and they taught me how to needle myself. So I started needling myself. And then I came back here and I said, I probably should find a professional. And so I was studying Tai Chi in Shaolin in the Buddhist temple in Chinatown on Henry Street. And I asked the lady there, I said, you know any acupuncturists? I said, sure, right upstairs, first floor. So I went upstairs and met the guy and worked with him for 8 months, got rid of my knee braces, my ankle brace. I was walking for the first time in 7 years with no help. So I went back to China. I studied more. That's when I studied more of the massage, acupressure, QiGong, martial arts. And then I went to India, Nepal, Tibet. I was studying more meditative stuff, tantric stuff, things like that. And then coming back from Tibet into Nepal, I got into a car accident. And now I had 8 new injuries. I became homeless because I couldn't go back to my apartment. And I was told again, I was never walking again. And I was like, no, we can't go back there. So I figured, I have tools now. I didn't have those tools back then. But even my acupuncture said, you need surgery. And I'm like, oh no, you can't tell me that. And then a good friend of mine helped me find these healers, including Virginia Sandlin, who's a Cherokee mystic. That's the technique primarily that I use when you come to see me, because she helped me integrate all of the techniques that I had learned before. And then I had also studied with some QiGong masters that do the energy work where you don't have to touch somebody, which is similar to Reiki. But the Reiki students were studying with him when I was studying with him, so it's a different level. So that's how I then the schools, 2 schools opened up in 1993 in New York, but I was, debilitated at that time because that's when the accident happened. But the following year, 94, is when I went back to school to become an acupuncturist. So I got my license in 97, but I had started needling myself in 88.
What type of acupuncture? Because there's a few.
Yes. Right? So the school that I went to was called TCM, Traditional Chinese Medicine, which is from mainland China, post-communist, where they got rid of a lot of the emotional and psycho-spiritual stuff because a lot of it had to do with ghosts and possession and ancestors. So they wanted to keep it as Western as possible and as scientific as possible. But I also studied some Japanese styles of acupuncture. And then, like I said, I studied with different masters, including some that did what's called classical acupuncture, where it's sort of before the communists took over. And that stuff had more of the emotional and spiritual aspects connected, along with 5-element acupuncture. So I kind of studied a little bit of those other ones, but I had already learned that stuff through the Western modalities, the psychology, hypnotherapy, the Cherokee mystic stuff. So once I started learning the classics, I was like, oh, China had this stuff already too. You know, ancient Greece had it, Egypt had it. So it was just easy for me to just put it all together.
So what's the proper energy? What's the proper name to call the energy thing that we do at your space?
It's a good question. So everyone minimally gets the Sandlin technique. So, you know, when I'm holding those points near your shoulders and under your head, that's the beginning of the Sandlin technique. So we call that the top 40 because there's 10 fingers in 4 positions. And then from there, I may switch to medical QiGong, acupressure. And some people get needles while I'm doing that. Some people don't get needles. Some people get aromatherapy. I'll put some of my oils on the points while I'm doing that, but that's minimum. Like I said, I have studied the initial trainings of Reiki, but it's not the technique that I actually use.
Okay. So the one where you're putting pressure is
Sandlin.
Sandlin. Yeah. And the one where you're putting your hands here.
Medical QiGong.
Medical QiGong.
Yeah.
Okay. And we haven't done acupuncture yet together.
Not with you, no.
Okay. But I would love to. And in acupuncture, you can use electric stimulation acupuncture or points.
So basically the needles go in, and then sometimes you can add a clip attached to an e-stim, electric stimulation machine, and then put a current through the needle.
I've done that a lot, and I've seen some benefit from it.
Yeah. So for me, it helped me initially, but then it had diminishing returns as far as my knees were concerned. And I had a partner when I first started, and when we separated, I let her take the e-stim machine. I got the microwave. I mean, the toaster oven, not the microwave, sorry. But because I stay in the room, usually when you get acupuncture, you get the needles, the person leaves, maybe go treat somebody else, have some tea, and then they come back after about 20 minutes, and they take the needles out. Maybe they check in on you in between. But because I'm staying in the room and doing that stuff while the needles are in, I'm the e-stim machine. And the currents usually that e-stim machine give you, they're still kind of high, meaning your body has electrical currents. The e-stim machine is a little bit more than that, even at its most minimum hertz. So, but I think if you have atrophy from an injury, you know, you're in a cast or something like that, I think that's really good to use the e-stim to stimulate the muscle to get it back quicker.
Okay. My lower back, even right now, I feel it. It's just tight. So the stimulation has helped, but I see, the last few sessions, it's gotten less helpful. But the first time I was like, whoa, I have no pain. It's completely away. But,
yeah, so some of those things are rooted in other things that may take longer.
So how would you approach treating chronic lower back pain, for instance? Or?
Yeah, so first I would see the age of the person and sort of how they live their life, you know, where they're at in terms of, you know, are they 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s? Are they baby boomers? Are they elderly? Then I would check the structure of the spine and the alignment. And see, are any of the vertebrae out of place? Have they had injuries, herniated discs, cracked vertebrae, etc.? Then I would feel to see if there's any adhesions, and also check their pulses and their tongue and see if their kidneys' energy is low. So if the kidneys' energy is low, there are certain symptoms that go along with that, and usually that affects the low back. And so you might feel weak in the low back, and there are a whole bunch of other symptoms that go along with that. It makes you more vulnerable to injury. So if you're strong, your kidneys are strong, you just have an injury, then I would treat the injury. If your kidneys are weak, that's an underlying condition where it's going to repeat. So I would have to supplement, tonify, get the kidneys stronger, and treat the local pain at the same time. And so I might do that with my oils. So for example, the blue dragon would be for the kidneys, and then the green would be for the pain. So one would nourish the kidneys and one would help the inflammation, for example.
And for the kidneys, you would drink a little bit of it, or
No, all of mine are topical.
topical?
But there are herbs.
Topical herbs on the kidney, so
on the points that affect the kidneys, or where you have the pain. So in the low back, at your L2 level of your vertebrae, there are points lateral to that help your kidneys' energy. Even though kidneys are physically a little higher than that, those points help the kidney. So I put the oil on those points first, and then I would see where the pain is.
And you would use which one?
The blue one here.
The blue one, okay.
It's the cinnamon smelling one, and then the green one, the minty one. Those two would be...
These two?
This one.
This one, okay.
Those two would be for somebody with chronic low back pain.
That's me. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're here talking about this.
Yeah, so you shake first, and then... So one is warming and one is cooling.
Okay.
So you may put one on and then wait a little bit and then put the other one on. Again, depends on... Like I had one guy, he had back pain for 20 years. And like you... Tall, dark, and handsome, like good-looking guy, strong, muscular. He never had an injury. His MRIs were fine. I was like, where's the back pain coming from? So he was moving to South America. I only had like 3 or 4 treatments before he was moving. So after first treatment, he was better, it came back. Second treatment was better a little bit longer, it came back. So with him, I asked him if it was okay to maybe look into some emotional stuff that might be trapped back there. And he was open to it. So I started asking him questions. And I said, if there was an emotion connected to that back pain, and he said anger. So then I take you through a series of questions.
But how would he know if anger was connected to that lower back pain?
I just asked if there was.
Oh, he just says...
I said, yeah, pick one. Pick an emotion.
Oh, okay.
And he just said anger. So I was like, okay. He had no conscious memory of anything particular, but that's what came up when I asked him. I also asked him if it had a color. What color would it be? Your left brain's like, what? The fuck color, So he said red. I'm like, okay. I said, if it had a shape. So these questions, this is part of the Sandlin technique, help your left brain get out of the way and bring in your right brain, the creative part. So it gives me access to your subconscious much quicker. It's even faster than doing hypnosis. So then, long story short, he saw it as a big red ball. We went back in time, and when he was 11, the choir teacher told him he couldn't sing. The first thing I said to myself, this is a branch. This is not the root. Usually when I do this work, very serious stuff comes up. Sexual abuse, abandonment, physical abuse, all kinds of traumas. But this was like the most, like choir teacher, like an insult, basically. And I'm thinking, you have 20 years of back pain, choir teacher. This is all going through my head, like, get the bleep out of here, right? So I don't judge, I don't question, I just go with it. I said, okay, imagine yourself there with, your adult self with your little 11-year-old. What do you want to say to the choir teacher? Basically told the guy off, I can sing, you're a jerk, blah, blah, blah. And then I go through a series of cutting cords and getting pieces back and forgiveness and...
Oh yeah, this thing. I've done this before with another lady.
So then we checked back in, and the red ball was gone. And he gets up and he's like trying to find the pain, like he's bending and twisting. He goes, I don't feel it. And I'm thinking, really? The freaking choir teacher? 20 years of back pain? Are you kidding me? So I said, okay. I said, I think we're good. I said, we got like another week before you move. If you need me, call me. But if not, I think we're good. I saw his wife a year later, and she said his pain never came back. I was like, the freaking choir teacher. So that just made me think, like, oh, wow. It's not always like something objectively traumatic that we would be able to remember. You know what I mean? Like say, oh, yeah, I got beat up, bullied, whatever. My uncle raped me, whatever. I could tell you crazy stuff that's come up. But I'm able to hold that space and get them to the other side. And they don't have to relive it because we rewind before it happens and we change it. So the subconscious has a different story. So the body reacts to the story. Doesn't know the difference. The body doesn't know the difference. So that's how the body just heals so fast. It's quite fascinating. And they're starting now. I see mainstream. Some people are starting to get it, that it's all connected.
Yeah.
But I feel like, they're still behind.
You are the placebo?
So the placebo is a good thing to me.
Yeah.
I feel that just reinforces the power of the mind. There was a guy in England who worked with burn victims. They would get third-degree burns. And what happens physiologically, you go into an inflammatory state within 24 hours, and that will determine whether or not you're going to live or die. He would get to them immediately in the emergency room and whisper in their ear, "You're cool and comfortable. You're cool and comfortable." Even if they were unconscious, they didn't get that 24-hour inflammatory response. They healed 7 days worth overnight. And I used that when I walked on hot coals once and I burned myself. I was like, all right, cool and comfortable, cool and comfortable.
It didn't work?
Oh, it worked.
It worked?
It worked.
Oh.
It worked.
Where'd you do that?
Right off the highway by LaGuardia Airport, there was a hotel. We were in the grass. People were stopping on the highway to walk because there's a big fire.
Oh, wow.
And then we spread it out to walk on it. That was a while back too.
Wow.
My hypnotherapy teacher did that. He was following.
He did it with you?
He was the leader.
He was the leader.
He guided you through what to do, how to prepare your mind for it and stuff.
Wow.
I got a lot of crazy stories.
I love it. I love it.
So like on a physical, without doing the rabbit hole stuff.
So like lower back pain or?
Yeah, I've had that. I had a guy with tennis elbow. It was really bad. He was going to HSS, Hospital for Special Surgeries, get surgery. He was already on the docket, scheduled 3 sessions just with the acupuncture and the acupressure. The doctor said, you don't need surgery. And the green dragon. Oh yeah, the green dragon too. He said, you don't need surgery anymore. I'm taking you off the schedule. He was a lawyer. He did not believe in it. I didn't know. He was a very polite man. His wife sent him. He came back to me and goes, so how does this work? And he was so impressed that he started sending me pretty much every partner in his firm.
And what did you do exactly to him?
It was primarily acupuncture.
Acupuncture.
I did the Sandlin stuff on the top, you know, and then I did acupressure and some massage, Tui Na type techniques. And I used my green dragon where the tendons were inflamed. And like I said, 3 sessions, he didn't need the surgery anymore. So that's like a very simple. And I've done that with back pain, ankle injuries, knee injuries, those kinds of wrists, carpal tunnel.
What about gut?
Yeah, so digestive stuff, I've had that today. There's a lot of that, especially in New York.
Yeah.
So in Chinese medicine, the spleen and the stomach are the earth element, and the liver and the gallbladder is the wood element. And there's a relationship between those two. And when your digestive energy gets weak for whatever reason, you're skipping meals, you're not eating the best foods for yourself, you're overeating, you're eating too much of something, dairy, whatever. A lot of times then the liver's energy, which is supposed to control that, over controls. And it'll either bully the stomach and then you get acid reflux, burping, vomiting, nausea, or it'll bully the spleen. You get bloating, gas, diarrhea, loose stools, sometimes both. We call that sudden turmoil syndrome when you have vomiting and diarrhea at the same time. So most people in New York have those issues because part of the way you weaken your digestive system is overthinking and not eating at regular times. So that's pretty much everybody in the city. So they're going to have some level of that. And then the liver is particularly affected by stress, anger, frustration, and feeling stuck. So those two things kind of go hand in hand for New Yorkers. So I treat a lot of different kinds of digestive issues.
What about people with like Crohn's disease or celiac disease?
Yep. So that I've treated that too. I actually treated an MD that had it, and he was getting better. And then he was like, "Oh, I don't think it's the acupuncture. I think it's because I ate this food once, And I was like, "Okay, you don't want to." It's like, that's fine. You don't have to give the acupuncture the credit. It's okay. Those are a little bit more tricky because they're deeper. They're in the organs.
Yeah.
And so they would have to follow a certain dietary regime, avoid, whatever they're allergic to, gluten, inflammatory stuff. That takes a little bit longer. And usually if we do the rabbit hole, it's a little bit deeper. And sometimes when we go doing the past things, sometimes it even goes to a past life. Which occasionally, but it can be something that's passed down, either ancestrally or from even before you were born. But that's rare.
Yeah, let's get into that. Past lives and Is that related to Ayurveda or Vedic or?
Well, India and Buddhism and they do have that stuff, but it just comes up for me. I'm not attached to any particular school of thought when it comes up. Like I had one woman, she was a MD. She was a infectious disease attending physician, and she had a knot in her throat. It was a lump. She went to Rolfing, all kinds of stuff. Nobody could get it out. At that time, I was a preceptor at Beth Israel, so that meant some of the doctors come and watch me work. So there was an 8-month pregnant resident watching me treat this attending physician who wasn't from New York. She was not from the city. She was from upstate. So we're working on this thing in her neck, and I took her down the rabbit hole to see where it might come from. And her brother had raped her and choked her while he was raping her. And that came up. The lady on the side who was pregnant freaked out. She was trying to get up. I said, I told her not to move and not to open the door. And then all of a sudden, this woman was in 1700s France, and her neck was in the guillotine, and the blade was about to come down. And I was like, okay, let's get your head out of there. And then the blade came down, and we just stayed in France, and I worked her through what she had to do, and this was gone. We didn't have to deal with the brother or the rape or anything. She went back to her offer. He's like, wait a minute, I can get in here. What happened? And she never got the lump back. So just
Whoa.
give you a range from the choir teacher to that.
Is she telling you this? Is that how you know? Or
Yeah.
She's vocalizing
I asked
this.
her, I said, what's happening now? Where are you?
Oh, okay.
So it started there with her brother choking her and raping her. And she had like a physical reenactment of that. And then all of a sudden she went calm. And I said, where are you now? And she said, my head's in the guillotine, and I'm in France. So we figured out later.
And you did this through manifestation? I mean, sorry, not manifestation, sorry. Self-hypnosis?
Well, not self. I'm there.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So it was partially hypnotherapy and the Sandlin technique mixed together.
Hypnotherapy and Sandlin technique, wow.
Yeah, so everything I do has the Sandlin technique mixed in it.
Okay, wow.
But she also had needles to open up this as well.
Wow. That's heavy, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it's very heavy. And that's not even the heaviest.
Okay.
But that kind of stuff, like people can come to me. But a lot of times they don't know. Meaning I had one lady, she was coming for amenorrhea, meaning she wasn't getting her period. One day she watched a movie with her boyfriend. There was a rape scene. She came to me and said, something came up. I'm not letting my boyfriend touch me anymore. I don't know what happened. So I was like, okay, maybe we need to explore that. So we did. And it turned out her uncle had sexually abused her for her entire childhood into her teenage years. She told her parents when she was about 8 years old. They didn't believe her, got mad at her. So that was the first thing that came up, but that wasn't the root. The root was when she was 5 years old. She was taking a bath, and the uncle came into the bathroom and started playing with her with his hand. So I had her there. We rewound. So nothing happened to the child yet, and her adult self is now in the bathroom. And I asked her, I said, do you need anyone else there? Bruce Lee, an army, Marines, whatever. She's like, no, as an adult, I can handle my uncle. I was like, okay. So the uncle was coming, and she stopped him in the doorway. She happened to take out a sword and really stopped him, but we had to still express and get everything out. And once we did that, her period came. Everything was good with her boyfriend. And I was like, wow, okay. You just never know. And she wasn't conscious of it. I've had a few people like that, maybe with fibroids or some other menstrual issue. And when we go down the rabbit hole, a lot of times it's sexual abuse or some kind of abuse that's happened around the time they were getting their menses, by the time their body was changing. It gets stuck. But they don't have the conscious memory. One lady was abused by her father and her stepfather, and her mother didn't know. So she kept it a secret. That happens too. Sometimes They don't, because they're scared, or maybe they got threatened. I'm going to kill you if you say anything. Or one lady, she was afraid to tell her father because she thought her father would kill her uncle, and he'd go to jail. So she didn't tell what happened to her because she was trying to protect her father. So all that stuff has to be teased out and worked out. It's not just, especially with that kind of thing. One girl, the father was playing with her. She was 8 years old. Oh, you got to learn how to play with this when you get older. So she thought it was a fun game until she became a teenager and he was raping her. Then she realized this is not a game anymore. But those are mixed together now. So people sometimes have, skewed visions of love. Like, what does it mean, And sometimes the abuse gets in there as part of what their love language is, So it can be very complicated, but I break it down to the simplest form. Anyway, I didn't expect to go into this stuff, but I got a lot of those stories. But I'm honored to be able to do that work, especially, and it's men and women. It's not just women that go through stuff like that. I've worked with men who've gone through stuff like that. But I feel especially honored when a woman trusts me with their heart, their innermost wounds, and I can get them to the other side. And I think that's part of the healing too, that they're able to do that with a man who might have been, a man was a perpetrator. But that requires me to be very yin, very feminine in my energy, not to trigger anything.
Yeah. Wow. It's true. That's beautiful. So, where do we go from here?
Sorry.
Hey everyone, I just want to interrupt for one moment and ask for your input. We're striving to make this channel even better and more valuable for all of you. So if you have any constructive feedback, suggestions, or questions I have missed, please don't hesitate to share them below. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a comment or review on whatever platform you stream the podcast. We really appreciate this. We have a goal of hitting 50 reviews by the end of the month. Your contribution won't go unnoticed. Thank you for listening, and now back to the interview. So what about the misconceptions?
Oh, like acupuncture.
That you can debunk.
Yeah, so you don't have to believe in it. So
because it's easy for you because you don't care, because you obviously work on these people and you see a big difference in their lives. And
all kinds of stuff. Migraines, 18 years.
But for me, when I say, I went to my guy, and they're just like, they're just too one-sided and so.
So to be honest, I didn't believe in acupuncture initially. I was doing Tai Chi. I was studying with a Zen master, meditating. My diet was kind of sucky, but I was doing herbs, supplementing with herbs. But I was like, how a little needle is going to help torn cartilage, torn ligaments? It didn't make any sense to me. So from like 83 to 88, people kept telling me to try it. And I was like, no, that doesn't make sense. Even with hypnotherapy, I was like, like most people, they see it on TV, you stage hypnosis, act like a chicken, or, look at the watch, you're going to go kill the president now. I hope that doesn't trigger the CIA and FBI coming here now, but that's okay. But it took me a while. And once I tried it, I could feel what it did. I felt what the acupuncture did in 2 sessions. I was like, that's like 3 weeks of bed rest in 2 days. Something to this. Don't know what yet, but something to this. Same with hypnosis. I finally went to meet my friend's teacher. And the first day I was like, this feels amazing. I want more of this.
Yeah.
Let me sit in the front row. I'm the volunteer, And then I gradually got more involved and, became advanced clinical hypnotherapy, but just even hypnosis, learning how to do that self-relaxation. Similar to yoga nidra, similar to many of the things that were there already. It's just the Western medical field catching up to that. So.
And is it part of putting your body in such a relaxed parasympathetic state where you can just tap into these old memories and remember the the
Yeah,
trauma
so
and
part
breaking
of that
down?
is that. So like with acupuncture, you don't have to believe in it. That's one of the debunked things. Oh, you got to believe in it. Because I didn't believe in it. It helped me. The lawyer didn't believe in it. He didn't need surgery anymore. Dogs don't believe in it. Horses don't believe in it. And they get acupuncture.
What's happening, do you think?
Oh,
Like,
it
are
has
we
to do with your brain waves
brainwaves?
and parasympathetic. So most
Alpha,
of us,
theta, beta?
yeah, most of us are in sympathetic most of the time. Sometimes we have a minute, we daydream and we get into parasympathetic, or you need to go to the bathroom, you got to relax to go to the bathroom. So usually we're in beta waves, talking to each other, whatever. But then when you're in that relaxed state, that you go into alpha waves, that could be through meditation, that could be watching TV. TV programs, and the advertisements pray that you get into alpha. And usually that first commercial that comes on back during the TV days is loud, more loud than your volume of your show, because it's going boom right into your subconscious. And they're praying that you were in that alpha state. And whoever gets that first commercial probably paying a lot more, because now you want that cheeseburger and you have no idea why. So going into the alpha accesses that subconscious stuff. So you could do that through progressive relaxation. If you're, susceptible for it and you know how to do it to yourself, you could do it to yourself much quicker, or you can have someone just, and you go into it because it feels good. It's like a very aware state. So when you're in alpha, you hear every little thing. You're super aware of your environment, but you don't care. You feel so relaxed. So that's like hypnosis, QiGong, Tai Chi, all of that puts you into alpha. And the more you learn how to do those things, the quicker you can go into it. So then you have access to it. So for me, I was doing my meditation. At one point, something kept coming up for me when I was 3 years old. And I knew where I was, but I couldn't put my finger on what happened to me. But I knew something happened to me. And it kept popping up through meditation. And I asked my father, and he told me what happened, which was crazy. But another time I was doing standing meditation, and I felt pain in my shoulder from an injury from 1981. And this is now over a decade later, and it hadn't been bothering me, but it healed more while I was in that alpha state. So the work that I do with the Sandlin technique, I do a special meditation while I'm doing that to get me past alpha, past theta into delta. Once you're into delta, you disappear. There is no more you. You don't have a self watching anymore. You just experience the oneness, nirvana, samadhi, whatever you want to call it. But you don't have the consciousness of that. Do you know what I mean? It's when you come back out of delta, you're like, oh my God, what was that? Oh, like you all of a sudden you realize, holy crap, there is such a thing as God, universe, oneness, whatever.
So you go into delta when you meditate?
Yeah, when I do my work. So, and then I come back because I'll get information when I'm there. So then I just follow.
When you're working on a patient?
Yeah, I become one with the patient and one with the environment.
Oh, wow.
Most of the time. And it's something now I can do and talk, where before I wasn't able to talk. And Virginia, she could do it while talking to you, and your body would just start healing because she's in that state and she's already merging and your body's healing from her energy. So I've had a few of those experiences now. And before it was a little more, how can I put it? Like I would just get guided. Okay, now I'm going to your knee or your ankle. And the person goes, how did you know? I didn't tell you about that. I was like, I don't know. Your ankle called me, or that acupuncture point called me. And I go over because it's not me anymore. You know what I mean? I'm just connecting with the energy. But now I'm able to sort of explain it, where before I couldn't explain it. I was just doing it naturally. But now I know the terms, I know the names. I could use Chinese medicine, I could use Western psychology. I can come back and then explain it to you. But still, that's not really what's happening in the moment. It's another level.
So it sounds like you're through your whole life, you've had something's been guiding you into this. Like you've just naturally, organically found this, and it's like your natural calling. So what do you say to those people who are very young, like in their 20s, trying to figure their lives out, who have this? Because I guess you could say that everyone has this special energy, right? And everyone can tap into this delta space. But what about those who connect, who are very aware of it? And what are some resources they can find to reach the next step in their?
Yeah. So when you're younger, so like when I was in my 20s, like first I started hearing stuff. Like I could hear what you would say before you'd say it. And then I'd heard that person. And like at first it freaked me out. It's like an echo. Like I heard what you said and then your mouth moved and you said it.
Would that be intuitive, or would that be, what realm would that, you call that?
I don't know.
Is that a medium? Would you call it?
I don't know what you want to call
it,
but it was part of what was happening with my training at that time. And unfortunately, the teacher wasn't available. So I wanted to ask him, like, hey, am I going nuts? Because I was working in a psychiatric hospital. I'm like, am I hearing stuff? Are they going to take my keys away, lock me up? I better keep this to myself,
So you were doing your training while you were at the
Oh, yeah, I was training every day. I got up at 4:30 and I trained for 3 hours every day.
Before you went to the psych ward?
Yeah, in the mornings. I was always late for work. My boss would get mad. I was like, yeah, I've been up since 4:30, but I'm still late. Sorry. Yeah, my dad thought I was being brainwashed by Buddhists in Chinatown at one point until I had him try to hit me and I threw him on the couch. I go, that's Tai Chi, Dad. He goes, oh, that's cool. Then he was happy.
Yeah. No, it really, it really looks like you found your purpose.
Yeah.
Right?
So what's interesting is, like I said, I wanted to be a nuclear physicist. I also wanted to be an athlete or a musician. I had those talents as a kid, but my body said, you can't do that. You got to do this. But that what my heart, if it was just my heart and I had, let's say, a normal body, I probably would have been either an athlete or a musician or a physicist or all three of those. I didn't like people. I was a misanthrope as a teenager. I didn't like biology. I liked chemistry and physics. I was a hard science kind of guy, Mr. Spock, that was my thing. Logic and reasoning, like the emotions were not part of my scene. And now that's what I do. So I feel like sometimes if you're in your 20s, especially before you get to 29, explore. Explore. Try to connect with what you liked when you were little, like 5 years old. Did you like to sing? Did you like to dance? The thing now with the younger generation is the parents understand some of this and they have the resources, so they allow their kids to just travel or do that stuff. But some of them are missing the self-discipline and the logic and reasoning to balance it. For my generation, like, the parents are like, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer. You can't be an artist, you can't make money. You can't be a musician, you can't make money. You got to, be practical, get a city job, get your benefits and blah, 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 that kind of thing. Where I think the opposite has happened now. A lot of these younger kids, they don't have to worry about money or whatever, and they can just do whatever they want, but they're not learning some of the boundary setting and the discipline that they need to balance that to be an independent adult when they get past 30. So I think 20s is summertime. It's good to explore, see what you liked when you were little, see if that's something that could be monetized. If you can monetize what you love to do, then that you're golden, and go for it. You're still young, you still have the energy. At the same time, think about what's plan B, what's plan C. Just like an athlete, you might get hurt. Even though you just signed a $7 million contract, or a dancer. I treat a lot of dancers. I treat Olympic athletes, professional, college. That injury now can stop you, if you've had a really bad injury, let's say. What are you going to do? What else do you like to do? So one of my dancers, she was really good at photography. Another one was really good at acting. Now she's a social worker. Do you know what I mean? One is still dancing. She's in her 50s. Her body was like, I can still go, So it's kind of like connecting. And a lot of times it's your life experiences together with your heart, mixed together, guides you as to what you're going to do. So a lot of those people I've treated who are abused, for example, they have jobs where they're helping underserved people. People with AIDS, let's say, are homeless or things like that, because they had that as part of their experience. But naturally, they were helpers. They knew that was what they wanted to do. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes it's all about following your heart. But if your heart's not healed, you have different pieces. So this part of your heart might want to go left. That part of your heart might want to go right. First thing to do is heal your heart. So explore and figure out, what don't you have to be an independent, fully functioning adult? Because when you hit 29, that's your Saturn return, astrologically. And I call it universal bitch slap. If you don't have your stuff together, if you're not on your path at that point, you're going to get hit by the universe. It's going to try to push you in the direction you're supposed to be going into from inside you. And that's when I had my car accident in Nepal. That's when I went back to school for acupuncture. I was doing all that as my side hustle. I worked in the hospital, I had my hypnotherapy practice, I was doing acupressure, $25 for a house call for acupressure. I was doing the Chinese herbs, I was teaching martial arts to kids, but it wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. So I had to get into that car accident. It had to be that extreme for me to go, okay, I'm going to go back to school and do this for real. Get the acupuncture license, and then I can integrate everything that I do. As opposed to being in the hospital, you can't do that. That's not your job description. That's the, social work, or that's activities therapy. You know what I mean? They wouldn't let me do stuff that I knew could help the patient because it wasn't. I had to stay in my lane. So that bothered me. I knew that couldn't be the whole thing. I had to be able to help people with everything I got. So I give the whole menu, and I see what's going to help the person, and I let them, decide what they want to use. So I have a lot of tools that I've been collecting over the years now, and I have the need for speed. So if you want to get better fast, I have ways to do that. Some people go for psychoanalysis and they'll talk for 40 years about their life, and they'll know everything about their life. They have all the insights in the world, but they still have the same problems, same bad decisions, same eating habits, etc., because they're not connecting the dots to their body, to their heart. So I would say explore and start to think, maybe I'm good at nurturing myself, but I'm not so good at protecting myself. Or maybe I need a little help with my self-discipline. Start to get this, figure out your strengths and weaknesses when you're in your 20s. See what your heart wants to do and start filling the gaps that you didn't get from your parents or your teachers or whoever. And then by the time you're going to go into your 30s, you're more whole. You're more in line with what you got to do at that time.
Do you think it's always right at 29, or do you think it could be when you're 30, 31?
Yeah, well, 29 is just the astrological thing. It's a Saturn return time, but sometimes it can be, a little before, a little after. It's not set in stone. But for me, it was hindsight. Like, I didn't know that when I was in the car accident. It was looking back. And then I had 3 other things happen to me later in my life. One of them was literally dying. And those happened during my Chiron return. Again, astrology.
That's another 30 years?
It was...
another 29 years later? Or it's a Chiron return?
It was 2050 years old, maybe, late 40s, 50s.
Okay.
I think.
That's a Chiron for most people?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not, again, astrology is not my thing. I know a little bit of Eastern, a little bit of Western astrology, just enough to have a fun conversation, but it's not my thing. But having had these crazy experiences and then talking to someone who knows astrology and go, oh my God, that was your second Chiron return, like when you sprained your ankle again, or when you ended up poisoned from a South American detox tree herb and you ended up dead in the hospital for 2 days.
Where was this?
This was here.
In New York? You took an herb that was supposed to detox you?
from Peru, from South America.
Ayahuasca?
No, ayahuasca I did, but that didn't kill me.
Oh, okay.
that I had interesting experiences with that.
So you went to the hospital and then?
Yeah, so I stopped breathing. So I was intubated and I was out. I was in a coma, whatever, sepsis, aspiration pneumonia. My body started breaking down. My organs started breaking down. Everything was shutting down. And I guess I came back 2 days.
Whoa.
I was in the ICU for 8 days. I got the chart when I was done. It was like 300 plus pages. It said, patient could die any minute. Patient could die any minute. For the first 50 pages, that's what it said. So I was like, oh shit, what's the lesson from this one? And it was to write the books. So I finished the one. I still got 6 more in my head.
Wow.
So it takes something like that for me to figure out, I'm not doing something I'm supposed to be doing. Because I've been coasting since, becoming acupuncturist, and, life's been okay. I've had some injuries, but nothing I can't handle, I always have pain every day. Something's popped out just from sleeping in the bed. So that I manage. But when it's something like, car accident or dying, that means there's something I need to be doing that I'm not doing.
What was the herb?
Called Katawa.
Kotawa?
Yeah.
And
So I was dating someone who was a shaman type, and she was training with the Shipibo tribe in Peru. And that was going to be one of the herbs she was going to be serving, but she hadn't finished her training yet, but a bunch of people wanted to try it. And I was like, yeah, you shouldn't mess around like that. And then I saw her take it, and I sat with her, and it was okay. And then allegedly I then said, why don't you let me try it, see what happens, and if it goes okay, then maybe you can try it with the other people.
So she was okay and you weren't?
Yeah. But I have no memory of any of it. And I don't know if it was from that or from the propofol that they gave me to keep me sedated. So I have no memory of the events from a couple of months of 2015. I have no memory at all.
Wow.
It's wiped out. And I have a good memory, one of the best of my peers. So that freaked me out too. I lost my smell, my taste for months. That was before COVID.
So why do you think your body had this reaction? And
maybe because, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Maybe because I was older.
And you took ayahuasca after that?
No, I took it before 4 times.
4 times?
Yeah, in different states.
Okay. Because
it was just part of the circle. So, I was like, it was a conscious midlife crisis thing. I was like, I never did these things before. I had friends did mushrooms and, smoked weed and did all kinds of drugs. I never did that stuff as a teenager, college. I didn't drink beer. I never drank alcohol. I was like, this girl's kind of cute,
So for someone who's done it 4 times, what advice would you give to someone to prepare? Because I've heard, my friends have been taking it for years, and I've never done it, but I know you have to detox for a month. You shouldn't drink alcohol. You shouldn't do this and that. You should have a clean diet for 30 days at least, and you should use a proper shaman, and you should actually go to Peru and do it.
Well, yeah, there are. Peru is probably one of the best places. But again, all that what you said sounds good. I didn't do half of that stuff, but I generally was eating clean. At that time, I was doing the keto thing, just trying that out for a minute.
But you had a good experience?
With what?
Ayahuasca?
It was interesting. I don't like throwing up.
Purging?
Yeah, I don't like that. As a kid, throughout my life, it's something that I would avoid. I would hold it and let it come out as diarrhea if I could. So that part was a little off-putting for me, the throwing up part. But I got the information that I was requesting from it.
So you went in with an intent?
Yes, you always have to have an intent. So the person I was with at the time, any herbal medicine or plant medicine that she was doing, she always had a purpose. She didn't just smoke weed, let's say just to smoke weed, for example. You know what I mean? Like there was always a mission of self-cultivation and self-improvement. So the people that I worked with, you had to write down what you were doing it for. You had to be very specific. So initially I didn't get any information. I didn't hallucinate. I didn't have any of that stuff. I'm like, I want to talk to a squirrel too, you know, like I was like, this stuff's not working on me. And then I went to get up. I'm like, uh-oh, I need a bucket, please. And then it wasn't until a day or two later, all the information flooded into me. I was like, huh, so there is something to this. But I realized on the fourth try, I didn't do it the fourth time, but I was at the circle and I got a message. They called it grandmother at the time because you had to keep it on the down low back then. My grandmother said to me, you don't need to take me anymore. So I spoke to the shaman. I said, look, I just got this message. Should I leave? Do you want me to stay? You want me to be a space holder, play my bongos? Like, what do you want? He goes, that's okay. We'd love you to stay. It's like, okay. I said, I'm going to feel weird not getting up and just sitting there and other people are getting up. But if you think that's okay, he's like, yes. And then people actually thanked me for being there. They felt safe. So I realized at that point I was done with the plant medicine. Go back to my Taoist and, you know, Chinese medicine stuff. But it was, you know, again, like I said, I didn't do that kind of stuff in growing up. And it was a conscious thing, though. It wasn't like, oh, I need to, you know, do that now.
What do you enjoy most about practicing in New York City your whole life? Almost?
Yeah, so, you know, they say you make it here, you make it anywhere kind of thing. So that's kind of fun. I've been in different locations, Midtown, near the Empire, across from Empire State Building. I particularly like it because I get people coming from all over the world. It's a central hub. I've had people come from different countries, Brazil, Mexico, from South America. People come from Europe, you know, Germany, France. So it's kind of a cool to be in the center that way, you know. And also I feel like because New York is so tough and whatever, and not like parts of California where this is all normal, I feel like my energy helps people who may not be connected with some of this stuff be able to get it, to receive it. You know, I had one patient tell me, the reason why I come to you is because you're not that woo-woo. You're woo-woo, but you're not that woo-woo.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, so I figured that's part of being a New Yorker and being in New York, you know, because, you know, people like it straight here, you know, they're not about, you know, I went to a holistic dentist once. She didn't take insurance. I was like, oh, that's what that means. Holistic dentist means you don't take insurance. So after the treatment, you know, whatever she did, she's like, do you want me to hit a tuning fork over your head? I was like, sure, I paid for it, hit it. That was her idea of holistic. I was like, okay, you shouldn't use that word. But I believe in holistic in the sense that, you know, we're going to look at the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of whatever even if you're not talking in that language, I'm thinking, you're just telling me about some physical thing. I'm thinking, what's the emotions? What's the social thing? What's your family going? You know, every aspect is going through my head to see what angle we can approach it from. Do you know what I mean? You might be in an apartment with mold. That could be your problem. You know, or maybe the woman's coming to me for fertility, and after 2 or 3 cycles, I'm like, you're good. I said, the problem's not you. Send me your man. He was doing everything wrong. Smoking weed, taking hot baths, drinking a lot of coffee. Right before sex, he was doing all the things that would slow down his little men. So I said, you got to just stop doing that before you have sex. She's on a cycle. Here are the days. They had the baby right away. So sometimes it's not even the person coming to me that's the issue.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to think out of the box, you know.
Where can people find your book and more resources?
So it's called how to be a great parent to your inner child, connect to your heart and your higher purpose. It's an East-West perspective on self-healing, self-cultivation, but also it's good for parents who have children. It's on Amazon and some of the other book things. But yeah, you can just type my name in, or great parent to your inner child. And
AcuDragon?
So ACUDRAGON Wellness System is the name I've given to all the stuff that I do. So, because I was tired of like saying I do acupuncture, acupressure, hypnotherapy, Sandlin technique, QiGong, Tai Chi. I was like, let me come up with a cool name. So I figured Acu covers the acupuncture, the acupressure, and my Chinese name is Little Dragon. That's what they gave me as my Chinese name when I was there in 88. And so I thought about the dragon as a symbol of power, transformation, healing, and it's different parts. So an Asian dragon has the dog face, the deer antler, the eagle claw, the snake body. And just like we have different parts. You have your, model part, maybe someone else has, athlete part, what I mean? You have different parts of yourself. So maybe someone's a parent here, they're a teacher there, and your heart has to be healed and correct to know how to behave in each of those situations. It's different energy, different part of you expresses. So I felt the work that I do helps people become whole and healed. So all their parts are working together to help the heart. The heart is your ruler. The heart is your king. The heart is your queen, emperor, empress, whatever you want to call it. And that's where we go wrong, because now the liver, the general, might criticize the heart. You turn like 9 years old and you've been told you're not good enough. Now you have critical mind. You're like, you're not good enough. I'm taking over. Or maybe some trauma happened and you're scared, you're timid, you're shy. You still got to go to school. So maybe some other parts come forward and the heart stays back. But the heart is the ruler. So you may be an adult now, but you have a 4-year-old heart that wants ice cream. But you're lactose intolerant. Yeah, I shouldn't be eating this. But you can't stop it because you're king. You're queen saying, I want ice cream, mofo. And all the adults, they're afraid. So you heard of shadow work. To me, the shadow is just a child in an alleyway putting a scary shadow on the wall, and the adults are afraid to go into the alleyway. The kid's just trying to protect himself or herself. So they learn different ways to do that. And then usually those ways don't work as an adult. And that's where the problem starts to come in. So maybe they were hiding when they were little, so when daddy was beating up mommy, they wouldn't get hit, or the chair wouldn't hit them. That was good that they hid in the closet. But now they're hiding and running away from every little stress. They're losing jobs because of that. They're losing relationships because of that. It's not working now. But that part was doing a good job as a child. So now I have to help that part either do a different job or do the same job differently. And realize that it's not working now as an adult. So there's a lot of different angles where how I help people.
Yeah, what is the critical angle? The critical monologue sometimes in your head.
It's really healing the parts of you that got stuck, that didn't heal. So like the book you read was supposed to be my third book. I'd started 2 others. I never finished them. Hired some coaches. They're like, oh, you got to do this one first. Because I realized that of all the people I've treated, lawyers, doctors, see everybody, that's the common theme. We all have to heal our inner children or inner child.
Yeah.
Because that's
self-love. Yeah, it all stems from self-love, right?
It's all about love. All the other emotions are static, either not giving or receiving love. Anger, sadness, usually it's something about love that you didn't get it, you didn't get enough of it, you didn't get the right kind that was for you, that you needed. Maybe your parents gave you what they thought was love. You had a roof over your head, you had a meal, they drove you to school, but they didn't let you play basketball. They didn't let you go to the dance school. Do you know what I mean? They didn't get you that doll you wanted. Maybe your love languages were different. So it's a lot of different.
Yeah, I do believe in love languages.
Yeah. And also which ones are the giving ones, which ones are the receiving ones.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes we unknowingly give the one we want to receive, even though the one they should be receiving is completely different. And so you have to be aware of each other's love languages and,
all that.
and work on them and sacrifice yourself for them.
Yeah, and see if it flows. I'm all about flow.
Flow.
Yeah.
I guess the most optimal relationship would be.
Static is problem.
I guess the most optimal relationship would be is if you found someone whose love languages were the same, or the one
compliments.
Compliment. Yeah, it's just easy for you to give that one to them.
Yeah,
and it's easy for them to give you your love language, right?
Yeah. And sometimes if there's static there, take a step back and then find out, oh, that's the way they're the gift-giving love language, or they're the compliment, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can say, I appreciate that, but that's not exactly what I need right now. I need more quality time. Whatever it is, you know what I mean?
That's the one that's like the hardest for me to give, the quality time one. Yeah, I think like Netflix and chill is like put on a movie, you're sitting together, that's quality time. But no, it's like you have to be emotionally present and talk to them about their what they're doing, what's going on with them.
Again, there's levels.
Yeah.
Of quality time. Then you got to break it down. What does that mean for each person? So like you said, for somebody else, that might be enough quality time. Just sit together, watch something on Netflix. But for someone else, they want eye contact and they want, 100%. You better not be on your phone or, that kind of thing. So again, your astrology, like who you are, your temperament, all that, your animal, your zodiac, all that kind of stuff is part of whether or not you're going to gel with somebody else. But love language is one of the more important parts.
And do you believe in like these CoStar, these apps, patterns, CoStar, I believe, these apps that
I don't really
you can put in your...
Yeah, I don't use apps and stuff. I prefer to just follow my heart, go where I'm supposed to go, and then I meet people that way.
Yeah. But I mean, the astrology aspect of the apps.
I like to look at them.
Not like the dating apps. I mean,
sorry. Yeah. I mean, like today I had a patient who, she said from the get-go, she and her husband were not compatible. So I just asked the numerology of the day they were born. She's a 3, he's a 6. So then you can look at that and say, okay, this is what's needed for these two to get along. Do you know what I mean? You could look up.
So you believe in numerology?
I believe in everything and believe in nothing at the same time.
So numerology?
Meaning I'll look at it and see, does it make sense? You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
So numerology, astrology, all those things I think are interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about the newer apps.
Yeah.
But I find it interesting. I wouldn't, if it resonates, then maybe we go forward on it. But if we look at it and go, oh, yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Then just swipe.
I find it very interesting as well.
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. I mean, you're really amazing, and I can't wait to see you work on my back.
Yeah, we can definitely get that going. And then there'll be, maybe I'll get you some herbs too.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing those experiences you had with your patients.
Yes, I think we went a little off script, but
it's pretty heavy. Yeah. Anyways, AcuDragon.com.
AcuDragonNYC.com.
AcuDragonNYC.com. And the book on Amazon. What was it called?
How to be a great parent to your inner child, connect with your heart and your higher purpose.
On Amazon.
Yeah, and it's a lot of like self-help questions at the end of the chapters, and it's sort of the beginning stages of coming out of the matrix, when it comes to self-awareness. And then hopefully I get the other books done, which would take it to the next level.
Beautiful. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.